Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout of thanks and appreciation to Cannabear, Gary Hughes, Measured Flat, Chris Wouters, Mr. Amish, Sensual Goat, Mitch Kennedy, Rod, The Name's Barely, Twodwazzle, Jason Hornsby, Flat Earth Travolta, JMails24, Unimento, M, Iron26, Endless, Goldie McKinnon, Retro Bill, Level Plain Poem, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B. Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Rob W., Del West Watson, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Links to Patreon, as I say, are in the info box below this video. With that, I'm going to hand over to whoever is in Discord and G+, so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show. I watch a guy called Frame Chasers, right? And he says exactly that. You've got to look after yourself. Just the manufacturers aren't going to look after you if it doesn't work properly. If they haven't created it correctly, they don't care either. You know, you've got to figure out how to use it and operate it, and then if there's a problem with it, you've got to figure out how to solve it. Because they're not going to sit on your computer and figure out where it's going wrong on your particular system. So, you know, unless the thing's physically set on fire, which some of the AMD chips did about 12 months ago, they're not really interested in helping you. So you've got to figure out how to help yourself. But that's his attitude. It's like, got to look out for number one, help yourself first.
You ever hear of a comedian named Jeffrey Ross? Or Roth?
Does vaguely ring a bell.
He does the roasts.
I'm wondering, what's that?
He does roasts, like he's the roast master, I'm pretty sure.
Exactly.
Roasts.
So anyway, I'm trying to think, like, it must be a generational thing because they roasted that guy Tom Brady, you know, a quarterback for the freaking New England Patriots. And the guy comes out in a Buffalo Bills uniform, number 32, full of blood. That's O.J. Simpson's number and uniform and team he played for. And how's that funny? But when I told my younger son, he started laughing. I said the guy just came out in a Buffalo Bill number 32 jersey covered in blood. And my son started laughing. So I'm like, is it a generational thing?
I don't know. I have no idea what your guys' attitude is towards O.J. Simpson and references that are comedic. So, you know, culturally, I haven't got an opinion on this, I'm afraid.
Yeah, but I mean, how's that funny? If he did or didn't do it, 2 people died, almost decapitated. I don't see how that is funny. I don't. But yet, when I told my son, he chuckled. He started grinning. I was like, "You think that's funny?" He's like,
maybe
"Yeah."
Modern kids have been desensitized to it, Neil. I don't know. I have no idea.
You want to see funny? Go see the Dean Martin roast. Those were funny.
They Steve Martin.
Dean Martin, the Rat Pack,
Oh,
Don
Dean
Rickles.
Okay. With your old timey stuffs.
Not old timey, it's timeless. Come on, he tells Frank Sinatra, You know who Frank Sinatra is, right? Of course, old Blue Eyes. So Don Rickles tells him, Frank, I really want to impress this girl. So I'm going to be eating dinner at this restaurant tonight. If you're going to be there, you're always there. If you could come by and say hello to me, that would really impress her. So he says, no
Neil.
problem, Don. I'll do it.
Neil, it's Nathan Oakley 1980, not 1960 or 70.
Let me finish
I'm
the
just joking
joke.
with you.
So he says, no problem, Don. I will do it. Night comes. Here comes Frank walking over to Don Rickles. Comes over and says, hey, Don, how you doing? Goes to shake his hand. Don Rickles says, hey, don't you see I'm busy here? That's funny.
Yeah, that's very funny.
And if I got to explain that, then
You
you're all retarded.
you don't need
and
to
I agree
explain
with
it.
QE.
You don't need to explain it. But thank you.
And I seen that Uncut and After show. You're so lucky I wasn't there. You pissed me off all over again.
What now?
Especially Brian. I don't read the room. No, Brian's not reading me. I knew exactly who came in and said that about you and your children. I knew it was Rob Noxious, and all I said was kick him out. That's it.
Yeah.
Didn't latch on to nothing. The
That is
argument
latching
kept
on.
going
That
forward.
is latching on. Ugh, forget it.
I read in the room. It's funny how I say things, shut up, and then you say them right after. 2 minutes after, not even 30 seconds I counted.
Yeah. So what?
So buttons.
Right. Sometimes, Neil, there's a punchline, and sometimes you're blurting the punchline through the middle of the description, the lead-up, the build-up.
Nah, I do that to you on purpose sometimes.
Well, anyway.
Well, we got
Making like
somebody.
a Tarantino movie out of a joke.
Hey
Yeah.
guys, just before the live show starts, there's somebody named G Crypt T. You wanna say something about that?
Yeah.
You can't.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go on. Yeah, go on.
Hi. Yeah, I've just recently been on holiday, and when I was on holiday, I made some observations. So I was on the island of Ibiza, and I was in a place called Santa Eulalia, and there's another island just south of there called Formentera. And I was on the beach, and I'm looking, and it looked quite far away. So I quickly Googled how far it was, and it said it was like 25 miles away. So then I'd done my Earth curve maths from QE's website. I just wanted to check if what I worked out was correct or not. If somebody'd be able to help me with that, please.
All right. I don't know if people here still mess around with the Earth curve calculator. That's the thing.
Right. Okay. This is just for my own peace of mind, you know. Basically, I worked out that if the island was 25 miles away, then my height, 6 foot, was probably stood on like a 6 foot ledge. So I made it to 12 foot. So I worked it out to be like 4.24 miles. So in that case, I shouldn't be able to see it. And then I
Why
went
not?
to the other formula. Sorry?
I said, why not? Why shouldn't you be able to see it?
If we live on a spherical Earth with a radius of 3,959 miles, I shouldn't be able to see it, should I? Anyway, then I worked out like the formula for like 8 inches per mile squared, and that came to like 5,000 feet. So basically, the island should have been hidden behind 5,000 feet of Earth curve. So then I Googled the highest point on that island, and the highest, not 5,000 feet, sorry, 5,000 inches, which works out at 416 feet. And I Googled the highest point on that island, and the highest point on that island is 390 feet. So basically, the island should have been hidden behind the Earth curve, should it not?
Okay.
Yeah, you take it, Nathan.
There's a lot to take apart in that. Okay. First things first. Standing on the beach, looking at an island in the distance. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Why is there a necessity to do anything?
This was just for my own peace of mind, you know, after like watching your videos and listening to you guys.
You're not going to know where I'm leading you, but just at the point that you see something in the distance, why look anything up? What is it that would lead you to do that?
Well, QE, I guess.
Let me give you a little example. Okay, there's two guys and they're looking over an estuary, a town in the distance over the other side of the estuary, but it's quite some distance. It's like 10, 15, maybe 20 miles. And just in the distance, with the naked eye, the one guy says, "Check it out, I can see the clock in that town." Right? The guy next to him says, No. You're not seeing the clock. It's actually a slightly looming non-standard refraction holographic projection of the clock from behind the reified physical geometric sphere-edge horizon we formerly knew as Earth curve at 1.2 times the square root of the observed sine feet. Therefore, what you see is not actually the clock. It's a mirage. We're not really seeing the clock. And then, as you said, it should be behind Earth curve. Therefore, what we have here is a mirage of a clock. Obviously.
Really what they said?
Well, the guy next to him then just replies, "I just see a clock." Now, the first guy who says, "I just see a clock," is a flat earther and has absolutely no reason to justify what the evidence of his own eyes presents to him. A clock. The globe believer has a problem because should we be able to see that clock? You can see the clock. Yeah, but should it be there? What do you mean, should it be there? We see it. Well, should it be behind Earth curve? Why would it be behind Earth curve? Well, because if I derive an Earth curve from flat Earth mathematics, then I can assert that in the maths there should be a hill in the way. And there might or might not be because we can see it. But should it be there in the way, or maybe it's fine to see it? Because there might be a problem seeing it. In which case we've got to call it a mirage when we just see it. So by looking it up, to get to my point, you're saying, well, for my own peace of mind, what? That you can see it? You saw it. But unless you're going to say, well, is Earth curve supposed to get in the way? Well, unless you're asking yourself if Earth is a sphere, contemplating that, you wouldn't be asking that question. But for the fact that we all used to think we were on a sphere, we then trouble ourselves with whether or not we should or shouldn't be seeing something that's evident when you look at something. It's there. You don't have to explain it. Unless you want to believe that there should be an Earth curve in the way, as you phrased it. You're like, shouldn't there be an Earth curve in the way at that distance? No.
Yeah, I see your point now. Well, thanks anyway.
It's part of the feast of nonsense. If they want you to worry about their positive claim is that the horizon's Earth curve. You as a flat earther have no claim in that regard. You're not trying to explain why boats go over their alleged to be physical geometric sphere edge. That's their positive claim that they have to justify. But it's much easier for them if you're looking into why there should or shouldn't be an Earth curve edge in the way. You're already begging the question alongside them. For me, if I'm going to talk about the horizon, I'd be like, I don't know, boats go over it. I do. I've looked at the diffraction limit. I've learnt the Rayleigh criterion. I know how angular limitation affects things. Hashtag shit shrinks. That's perspective. But I don't have a claim in that regard, so I don't have to answer their questions when they say, why does the boat go over the horizon? Well, that's your positive claim. We debunked in 2020 with the Black Swan. Me, I use the horizon. If I was to be navigating, I'd utilise it to establish a horizontal plane of reference that would extend out to the GP of whatever star I was using, thousands of miles of flat territory in all directions, necessitated by the angle measurement of the ground which we reference. Proving Earth is measured flat, that's what I'd use the horizon for, if I was out at sea and there was nothing else to reference because you're rocking all over the place. Then you can establish a flat plane with that horizon. You would say that boats should go over it, and there's no practical application, no use to that assertion beyond you questioning whether or not we should see a boat that you've seen in your own bloody eyesight. So for you, it's useless, and for me, it's useless, and it's just only there to affirm that we've got a sphere-edge horizon that we definitely haven't got. For me, I can use it in a practical way to potentially save lives at sea. There's a big difference between the two when using the horizon as a standard. But, worrying about their standard that fails when it's Earth curve edge horizons as a flat earther is something that I'm hoping that people moving forward will relinquish entirely. Why are you worried about whether or not it's working with the ball model? The ball model came from a flat Earth measurement. Once you know that the ball came from a flat Earth measurement, you'll stop concerning yourself with whether or not that flat Earth measurement derived ball works with a reality that isn't being described as flat anymore. When it's measured that way to give you the inference. It's crazy.
You had that knowledge during the Isle of Man days?
Yeah, but we wouldn't be where we were. I almost mentioned the Isle of Man to that guy. I was like, yeah, we were where you were in 2016 when we were debating the Isle of Man, but it just sounds so condescending. I was where you were once, mate. If only you could elevate yourself to our lofty position. My farts smell great. No, that just makes me a dick. So comparing and contrasting to how we were also led down the garden path of asking the questions he's asking. Should we see this distance? You can see that distance. What are you talking about? That's now. Back then, it's like, oh, let's look at the maths. Let's see if we can see too far today. Because we didn't know better.
Upside though, it's nice to have another Geordie on the panel.
I'm not a Geordie. Get lost.
I'm from Middlesbrough. I live in London now.
Bloody Geordies.
Bloody traitors.
Geordie Newcastle.
Hey, when would
Newcastle, right? That's Geordie.
Yeah,
Where
but
is that?
Middlesbrough is just
Newcastle.
south of Newcastle. So if you're from Middlesbrough, are you classed as a Geordie?
Is it around that neck of the
Absolutely
woods,
not.
though, right?
Yeah, like 50 miles away.
Okay.
I'm in West Virginia, 50 miles is like to the hospital.
I used to be a rep. I went out to Newcastle and I'd stay in the town and there'd be nothing to do, so go out in the town, see what's going on. And the girls would be out in 0 or below with boob tubes on and their legs out in miniskirts. And you'd be like, what the hell? I remember being in like 3-piece suit, thick shirt, tie, scarf, overcoat, gloves. You walk around the town and you see this girl in a boob tube and short skirt. You'd be like, oh my God.
Yeah, they don't feel the cold up north.
You're telling me? But that's not true, because up in Scotland, it wasn't like that. I mean, admittedly, it was a little bit colder, but not that much colder. We're talking maybe 100 miles further north, if that. And they're all behaving like you'd expect in cold weather. They've still got a coat on, but not in Newcastle. I don't know, it's just that particular place. It just really stuck in my mind. That and a cab driver that didn't know where he was going, but that's a different story. We've actually got a video to cover today. I should really cue it before the live stream starts. I've tested my live stream after signing out accidentally, and it does seem to be connecting quite happily. So looks like we will have a live stream today. Happy days. Touch and go for a few minutes before we started.
Could I make that suggestion?
What suggestion is that?
Well, like a long time ago, I remember I thought about coming on and trying to like mediate for the Glovers, but I never really thought that would pan out so good. Mush, though, he made the suggestion today, just before you came on, of going down some Glover comments on some videos that I guess that we've done or you've done, and kind of answer them, but more like a game, more like asking the questions that Glovers ask in the comments, and then going to us as extended panelists to answer them. And
Will I have to
kind
read
of
anything?
Will you have to read anything? I don't know.
If I don't have to
Mush,
read
are you
anything,
there?
if someone else from
I
your
don't
side
really
is
know.
reading it, then absolutely.
Yeah, I was thinking anybody can read the comment, but like then people taking turns and identifying logical fallacies in it and pointing out what's wrong with the comments.
Right.
Because literally 100% of their comments is like either straight up lies, baseless assertions, or logical fallacies of some sort.
I'm up for that.
You know what I mean?
What you're saying is they're not brave enough to come in and share their pain in the voice chat, so therefore they spew it in the message boards. And if we
And
can't we ponder some of that?
Sacrifice ourselves as Glovers.
Say again?
I said, and then we sacrifice ourselves as temporary Glovers. Yeah.
Well, it's also
Hello?
just a.
Yes.
Okay, I have to hang up, guys, because my wife is on the phone and gotta be quiet, all right?
Yeah, no worries. His wife's what? I didn't hear what he said.
Oh, uh-huh.
I said my wife is on the phone. I can't
Nope,
talk.
I'm almost at your house.
Oh, okay. No problemo.
Anyway, I thought that could be interesting, and in place of some housekeeping, just kind of reading some of their comments, even if we designated, say, Mush or me or someone else to do the reading part.
You want to do that?
I can read comments, yeah.
Right, let's do that then.
All right, I'd need a video to choose. Otherwise, I could just choose a random video. They're all the same, aren't they? The comments.
We don't need to worry about the video that they've responded to. We can just go with the comments themselves. You know what I mean? They've already posted loads, haven't they? About other stuff that we've covered.
Are you talking about YouTube comments?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I think
YouTube
so.
comments like on any. It can be any video, dude.
Oh,
Like literally
YouTube
any
comments?
FB video.
I thought you meant
Yeah.
comments from within Discord.
No, my
Nah,
bad.
man,
I'm
these
sorry,
guys.
I was unclear.
Yeah, YouTube section, YouTube comments of any FE video is gonna be loaded with nonsense. And I was just thinking like
Okay, listen.
panel members or people in the Discord taking turns and
Gotcha.
taking turns and identifying logical fallacies and
Gotcha.
you know,
Well,
kind of sharpening the swords.
there's no point doing mine because I police mine daily. And I will respond to people. So, typically I do that myself in my own comments. But you're saying other people's videos where they've got a whole string of fallacies. What you're saying is, this would be like your dream if you're a newbie flat earther, because you hope that all of the fellow brothers in arms are going to come to your comment section and help me, like Dave McKeegan did. I think it was Dave McKeegan, or it might have been a different fundy, but appealed to his comment section. No, it was the guy who was big on TikTok and then came over to YouTube. Who was that guy? What's his name? Planet Peterson.
Astro Kobe?
Planet Peterson. Right. When he's appealing to his comment section to answer questions he's got no clue about, right? And you hope that somebody's going to come
Yes,
on and go,
yeah.
I'll help you from
I
your
remember
comments
that.
and I'll give you 3 paragraphs with citations that you can just... it doesn't happen. You get a load of trolls telling you how wrong you are.
Yeah, he literally said like, I don't understand these things as well as he does, but if anybody in the comment section does, please let me know. That was funny, man.
Exactly. But what you're suggesting is we do actually do that for our own, as in go into a flat earth video, look at their comments and see what fallacies they've had to contend with, but maybe
Because
not
literally
address.
anybody, Yeah, man. Any comment that tries to defend the globe is going to be, you know, some type of a logical fallacy or baseless assertion, or attacking flat earthers, which is mostly 90% of their comments is just talking shit about flat earthers.
Hello, good morning.
Hey, good afternoon. Body.
Good day.
Wow.
Morning.
Good morning. Well, it's good to have you all. Glad we're all nice and warmed up. There's going to be a bit of a new segment coming along shortly by order of the Peanut Gallery. That is to say, Discord want us to cover some of the YouTube comments. Comments being the Peanut Gallery, not Discord, just so that's clear. So they would like us to look at some of the logical fallacies and lies that are put upon, let's just say, some of our fellow flat earthers. So rather than necessarily covering a specific flat earthers video, we'll obviously help them out in the YouTube algorithm if it is off of specific videographer's video and videography that could be shared and liked and all the rest of it. But what our focus will actually be is from their comment section. And we joked in the pre-show that, you know, and I can speak from personal experience when I first started making videos on this subject, maybe little under maybe 10 years ago, you'd put a video out and you'd hope that the bits, the gaps, the things you didn't understand would be filled in by the comment section. That is to say, well, obviously there's going to be a whole load of white knight flat earthers that have come to my rescue and help me out and educate me in this subject so that I can know better for the next video I make. And lo and behold, you get a load of trolls telling you how wrong you are and how stupid you are and how you need to drink bleach. That's what you actually get. But there we go. So in that particular instance, we're going to be the ones covering some of those comments as that white knight, as it seems. I think I've understood the premise of what Discord want us or want the show to do. Am I right? Because we only just discussed it before we went live, right? Am I correct? Yes, Nathan, we don't.
Yeah, and everyone at home will be able to play bingo. So 3 categories I've got. Number 1 will be nutter. Number 2 will be where's the flat map, and category number 3 will be an attack on you, Nathan. So if anyone at home can think of their own categories, you'll be able to outscore me.
We need to come up with some
You need
bingo
to add, why would
categories.
they lie?
Nuh-uh. You're an idiot. Nathan's an idiot. Or what was the other one?
QE scientific method.
Where's your map?
Where's your map? All maps are flat. The amount of times I should really come up with one of those shortcuts that it automatically types out a whole paragraph that you have to type out 1,000 times as a response. Anyway, yes, maps are flat. They have to be to work with elevation angles. In any instance, I don't think we've got anything prepared right this second, unless I'm very much mistaken. You guys haven't got something up your sleeve that you wanted to do right now, had you?
Maps are flat because you got to put them in your pocket, Nathan.
Okay.
No, it was pretty spur of the moment, to be honest.
Say one more time.
I said it was pretty spur of the moment, to be honest.
Yeah, but I'm happy to do it as long as I don't have to read the comment and respond to the comment. Obviously, I'd want someone from Discord, as I said in the pre-show, to actually read them out, and then whoever that isn't reading it can respond to the fallacy, call bingo, whatever it is we're going to do with it. But we can do it at our leisure, right? We can start, especially we already have, or you just did, was that Adam, by saying some of the common fallacies that are used, like where's your map? But maybe people don't know the rebuttals, so it's often worth going through these things just so people get familiar with what the rebuttals actually are. Shout out to
maybe
Richard
there's
G.
a lull or
Just one sec.
something.
Shout out to Richard G for joining as a hyena. Thank you very much indeed. Go ahead.
I was just saying maybe there's a lull or something, and I come in and I'm like, hey, by the way, there's this comment on this video that we're watching right now, and what do you guys think about it? And then you could just relay it back to us, I guess. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't thought these things out yet, to be honest.
Let's just read a couple now that I've got. Neil's really annoying. He's bringing down the show. He's just like Arwin. Get rid of him. I don't know what we should say. What fallacy is that? Neil, any idea? Neil's recently had a run of people telling me that they're really irritated with him. I don't know if he reads my comments. I know he probably does.
That's the constantly irritating Neil fallacy.
Constantly irritated by Neil fallacy. In case you can't tell, I do read my
No,
comments.
I said it's the constantly irritating Neil fallacy.
I don't know. It doesn't have a ring to it. Maybe something like the "shut up, Neil" fallacy would be better.
Anyway, we do actually have a video to cover today. So, from what I understand from what Brian told me, although this is a YouTube video, so it kind of makes no sense now I'm playing this, but we'll see how it goes. From what I understood from Brian's logic, was this phase of people on TikTok taking the mickey out of Bob the Science Guy, and I think perhaps it's been put together by Flat Earth Banjo, but that's how it seemed to me. So I was assuming that this was going to be a TikTok video, but obviously it isn't. So I'm a little bit confused already. But Flat Earth Banjo is definitely a friendly. So as always, go and let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. So unless I've clicked on the wrong video, I haven't actually read what it says alongside this message. I've only listened to the first couple of minutes, but so far the verdict is hilarious. Okay.
Let me
Fine.
add this really quickly. He covers a lot of TikTok videos and he takes snippets from TikTok. So maybe that's what they meant.
Okay. I mean, Brian's never done us bad. Well, other than, leading us into 5-hour discussions about tidal locking. But you can't really moan about that. That's like a whole load of content that everybody moaned about. So, I mean, he's never done us wrong, has he? You can't really go wrong with Brian's choice. Let's get into it anyway. Hopefully the bloody sound works. Oh, not a good start.
So in other words,
it's just a silent start. Just before we went live, I accidentally signed myself out, and everything lost all its settings as a consequence. But it does seem like we've got audio. I wouldn't normally do this, but just to be absolutely certain, if I just play a couple of seconds, can you just tell me from the live stream audience that you can actually hear this coming out to you?
I hope we can be a bit more cordial than Ranhound that always gets owned.
Well, good morning, Angel. How are you today?
Not bad.
And rising.
So let's get straight to the point. Let's talk about Coriolis.
Okay.
If I'm on the merry-go-round that spins once and I throw a ball, it deviates, right?
Mm-hmm.
No. That's wrong already.
How come that doesn't happen on the Earth?
Why do you think it doesn't?
But wait, when I'm at the equator, does the ball fly sideways when I throw it?
Depends on which way you throw it, yeah.
It sounds like this guy knows the premise, but just doesn't have the quite correct terminology. Does it appear to drift? Right?
If I throw it north, will it fly sideways 460 meters in 1 second?
Yeah, he absolutely understands this premise, doesn't he?
Okay, on the equator itself?
Yeah. If I face north on the equator and I throw a ball in front of me,
yep,
does it fly sideways at 460 meters for every second?
Why would it fly that fast? It curves to the right, but...
Wow, he's just got Bob to concede that Earth turns underneath balls that are thrown.
Yeah.
Yeah, what? Precisely like the globe actually claims. So this guy is sharp. I don't know who he is, but he absolutely understands the premise of Coriolis. That's a not actual deflection, although he didn't use that term. I.e., Earth turns underneath the ball. And he's got Bob to say, well, yeah, of course, ball drifts. You'd
Nathan,
notice.
I think he deliberately said it that way.
Well, we'll see. If deliberate or otherwise, it's incorrect. It's an apparent deflection in any Coriolis description that's accurate. But it doesn't matter. This guy definitely knows what he's talking about.
When you're throwing
how fast does the Earth rotate in 1 second in your model of the equator?
Oh, it's 1 degree a day. Or, excuse me. It's
Not what he asked. Notice Bob immediately reverts to switcheroo. How fast? 1 degree. Degree? Is that a speedometer?
It's 1 rotation a day.
And how much miles per hour does it spin in an hour?
Yeah, this guy's sharp too. He spotted it straight away. What's that in miles per hour? Who is this guy? Who's this guy? Anybody know? I like this guy.
It depends on your latitude. The linear
equator.
speed at the equator would be about 1,038 miles an hour.
That's 460 meters a second. Did you know that?
Okay. So
if I throw a ball at the equator north, does it fly sideways 460 meters like it does in the merry-go-round?
no, of course not.
Boom. Earth rotation debunked from the perspective of your claim that we do have Coriolis effect then. If it doesn't deflect, we don't have deflection. And we claim to have 15 degrees an hour of it. Boom.
Or does it do it on a
See if the guy claims his win. You just won.
merry-go-round?
Yes, it does. It deviates off a merry-go-round. Of course it does.
It deviates. It doesn't stop.
Deviates.
It doesn't lose all of its inertia as soon as you immediately let it go.
Does the ball deviate at the
He's whistled past his own win, hasn't he? Just needed to go, well, do what I do. Boom! Earth not turning then. No 15 degrees an hour deflection then. No Coriolis effect to prove we're spinning then. Bob said it didn't. No, it doesn't deflect. Well, if it doesn't deflect, then Earth's not turning underneath and there is no 15 degrees an hour deflection called Coriolis effect to prove we're spinning. The guy won.
equator?
Yes, it would.
Really? I can throw a ball in front of me and it's going to deviate sideways.
It curves to the right, yes.
Are you joking?
No.
Bob's now double-speaked his way back to Earth does turn underneath a ball because it will drift sideways. So all that's happening is Bob is flipping between, no, there is no deflection, and yes, Earth does turn underneath the ball so you can exhibit not actual deflection. That is the apparent deviation as Earth turns underneath the ball, like on the example on screen, where the guy and his friend throw a ball to each other, and because the ball, once released, travels straight, but you keep rotating, from the vantage point of you on the roundabout, it appears, that is to say it's a not actual deflection, the ball appears to curve away from your path. Not because it does actually curve, but because you are turning underneath. For Earth to have this effect, which it's claimed to have, that's Coriolis deflection, then Earth must turn underneath stuff. And we'd notice. Earth would turn underneath aeroplanes, helicopters, drones, balls, you if you jump up and down. And this guy seems to know it. But Bob, in response, no, it does turn underneath. Yes, it doesn't. That's what he's doing.
How much does it deviate?
Oh, tiny, tiny, tiny little
Why is it a
amount.
tiny bit when the Earth has moved 460 meters in 1 second?
This guy's got screwed now. Now he's back and forthing with Bob in his paradigm of an Earth that requires a horizontal plane of reference to describe the axial rotation in the first instance. And when he's led his opponent, rightly so, within the paradigm to his win, the moment Bob says it doesn't deflect underneath, or it's just a tiny amount, then it's in contradiction to the two reference frames that Globe needs to have Coriolis. He just needed to declare his victory. This could now potentially go on for hours and hours and hours.
Second.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, the ball, when it's in your hand, the ball, when it's in your hand, is already moving at that speed. And the deviation would be the difference between the speed of the equator and the speed of wherever the ball ended up over the time it takes for the ball to get there.
Wrong. So what Bob has now done is redefined Coriolis effect into Globiolus effect. See if the guy spots it.
If we hover a helicopter, how come the helicopter doesn't do
No. He's just redefined Coriolis effect. He's just told you about the conservation of a not actual deviation. Wow, that was a mouthful. There is no conservation. If the ball travels straight, you're not describing the ball retaining the angular momentum of the roundabout. The ball travels straight, and it only appears to curve as you turn beneath it. So for the Earth to exhibit this effect, ball moves straight, you turn underneath. That's how the effect is described and qualified in Coriolis effect, the effect the globe Earth is claiming to have. What Bob's now done is introduced conservation. It's like, well, what are you suggesting? That the ball is retaining some of the angular momentum of the non-inertial turning platform that it's now left? Because if it's retaining the velocity, it's going to exhibit an actual deviation, regardless of if it's slightly behind the rotational velocity that it's acquired. Regardless, it's not Coriolis anymore. But he's done the switcheroo and the guy hasn't noticed by the looks of things.
Deviate.
Why would it? It's under control. And it's
Why would it? Because the globe claims you've got 15 degrees an hour of it, Bob. That's why.
Over a specific spot on the Earth.
We just sacrifice all of this garbage discussion. To have an axis of rotation, you need to describe said axis with respect to a horizontal plane. You can't have the axis description or the rotational description without planes of reference. I've said it already a couple of times. Horizontal plane of reference in our description of measuring a flat plane is also the same exact description when describing perpendicular to that flat plane for an axis. What are we talking about? Reference planes. We're talking about planes of inertia. We're talking about rotational frames, flat in nature. Yeah, your non-inertial turning reference frame. Your inertial frame of reference, i.e. the straight path that the ball travels through, the one that Bob is now switcherooing away from, deviating from the initial globe claim that we have Coriolis, deflection as you turn beneath. Apparently, the ball curves. No, not really, son. You're just turning underneath it, mate. What's that? No, it's retaining angular... No, we're deviating away from the actual globe plane. Bob is.
If we hover a drone over a spinning merry-go-round, the merry-go-round moves underneath the drone, right?
Okay, but the drone is not got the inertia of the merry-go-round.
That was pretty slick. He just took away the conservation by having the drone hover. That was pretty slick.
Why not?
So it didn't start off with the inertia.
Does the helicopter have the inertia of the ground?
Yes, of course.
No, it doesn't. If it's hovering, this guy's good.
Of course.
Oh,
Really?
got him.
So if I fly a plane and land on the north to south runway, I'm going to chase the runway sideways.
Why would you do that?
To prove your claim of globe turning underneath. To have a not actual deflection of objects in the inertial reference frame, you at the airport must watch the plane seem to curve as it approaches the runway. That is to say that the runway, as the plane travels straight, is moving away from the plane. That is the effect that is described to prove curved Earth turning at 15 degrees an hour. Coriolis effect. The only way to describe that effect is to be on the turning reference frame and watch an object seem to curve. Ergo, if you're on the runway and you're looking up at the plane moving straight, but actually from your vantage point curving away from the runway, yeah, that is what you must have to have Coriolis deflection. That's what is required. Bob's response, why would we have that? Why would you have proof of Coriolis deflection? Because your globe claims to have Coriolis deflection. Why would we have the claim of Coriolis the globe saying proves we spin? Is Bob's actual response without realising it.
Why do you think that
planes don't account for rotation?
You're already going at the same rotational speed of the Earth at that.
Then there is no Coriolis effect. If you're going at the same rotational velocity, there's only one reference frame. Coriolis requires two. What is this? Simon Dan telling you your reference frames are ruined? You're right to smirk at him because he's now relinquished his second reference frame, which is required to prove we spin in a globe Earth rhetoric with Coriolis deflection, because that's two reference frames. Did someone want to add something just then? Go ahead, whoever that was.
Now it's the same thing. His reference frames are ruined now.
Yeah, Bob's are.
That point. So your speed relative to the runway is zero.
Right. So in other words, the Earth can be treated as stationary, right?
No.
We've just described a not actual deflection that we're not observing anymore. If the relation to the zero is the Earth continuing to rotate with the plane, then there isn't any deviation. There's no 15 degrees an hour drift anymore. Ergo, if we can not see any deflection, then we can only treat the ground as not moving with relation to the plane. Like you say, why would we expect to? So it's not moving with relation to the plane then, the ground that is. Yeah, well then it's not moving with relation to the plane, therefore not moving because that's how you claim it is. Coriolis deflection. You've got to be turning under the plane to have a second reference frame. Coriolis effect? Bob's response, why would we have that? Why would you have your globe proof?
Why not?
The Earth is not stationary. If you look at the relationship or the relative speed of the surface of the Earth and the surface of the plane, they're the same.
Then you're no longer talking about Coriolis deflection because it's two separate reference frames, Bob. So what you basically become is a heretic. Yeah? Burn him. Because no, the globe claims two reference frames, 15 degrees an hour drift between the non-inertial turning reference frame that you will be on observing the 15 degrees an hour drift of the objects in the inertial reference frame separate. What's Bob now saying? No, they move in relation to each other. Well, then they're not separate. Then you haven't got drift. Then there is no 15 degrees an hour deviation and Earth isn't proved to be spinning. It can be, as this gentleman exquisitely declared, taken as being stationary. Now, that's not a positive claim. It's a debunk of the outrageous assertion that we can prove Earth spinning with Coriolis deflection. 2 reference frames. Maybe let Simon Dan know this as well, because he struggles with these concepts.
Same.
Yeah, so if I fly a plane against the rotation of the Earth, sorry, and we set the plane speed to be 500 miles per hour.
No frigging way. Is this guy going to have Bob up the plane go backwards? No way. No way.
That's over the ground, yes.
Yeah. Does it move? Does it get pulled back 1,000 miles per hour now?
Why on earth would it do that? It's already going.
You're saying the hovering helicopter tags along with the atmosphere.
The atmosphere tags along with the surface, and the helicopter's with it. It also has the initial.
Right, so how come the helicopter goes sideways with the Earth perfectly, so it just looks stationary because it's tagging along with the atmosphere, right?
Correct.
So you said it as if it goes higher in altitude, it still tags along the same, right? Does it still appear stationary?
Pretty much, yep.
To us?
Straight up first law of thermodynamics violation. You can't create energy out of nothing. So if the non-bonded, free to move in all directions without bonds, now claim to be bonded to the ground at all altitudes, atmosphere, increases its circumferential value as you raise in altitude in the concept of a globe Earth. Let me explain. The circle that you travel on the inside of a roundabout is shorter than the circle you travel on the outside of a roundabout. Hopefully everyone understands. Same thing applies to atmospheric oxymoron sphere-shaped air. At ground level, it's travelling in a small circle, and as it goes up in elevation, expanding outwards, upwards, then it will increase, if you assume the Earth is rotating, its velocity to retain its position above the ground it's not tethered to, but is also simultaneously tethered to it, to decry the notion we have 2 reference frames. Stupid nonsense that this is. That's the first law of thermodynamics violation. It would have to increase its kinetic energy with respect to the ground as it increases in altitude. Now, it does disperse. Gases behave that way. They move up from ground level where they're created. But it cannot, in a begging the question fallacy of globe Earth rotation, derive from an axis perpendicular to a horizontal plane of reference we measure, increase its velocity without violating the first law of thermodynamics. But in order to beg this question, and that's where this guy's going, Bob's got the drone, in this guy's example, or aeroplane, flying backwards. That's where he's taking him. Let's just hear the rest, see if he can round this out in a QE style.
Yep.
What causes... But at a greater height, you'd agree that's a greater radius?
Yes.
So what causes the atmosphere to magically just tag along with the Earth like that? What force causes that?
It's
not tagging along at that point. It's increasing its radial value, therefore increasing the circumferential distance, therefore having to increase its kinetic energy to maintain velocity with the ground below. That's the first law of thermodynamics violation.
called friction. And it doesn't tag along. It doesn't tag along 1-to-1. It doesn't tag along. It does lag a little bit. For example,
so now it lags a little bit. All right, so we're back to 2 reference frames then. So then we notice and be able to capably measure drift at just a random rate, as opposed to the 15 degrees an hour declared in globe Earth rhetoric. Right, Bob's got a little bit of deviation because it doesn't quite tag along when it violates the first law.
For example, at 100 miles above the surface, the atmosphere would lag behind about 25 miles an hour.
So if I wave my hand here, the whole room doesn't start just waving air everywhere. You agree, right?
No, the air around your hand does, though. That's why you can fan yourself.
So, but you just said friction. So how come the friction of my hand doesn't?
We're talking about unbonded gas molecules, right? So when he's talking about what the friction, they have elastic collisions. You know, Bob has got to fundamentally deny gas behaviour in order to have this discussion that violates his globe proofsy, that we've got 2 reference frames and a 15 degrees an hour drift. Now we've got friction and first law violations and oxymoronic sphere-shaped air moving at greater velocities as it increases altitude because of friction. This is the garbage you've got to do to decry the very proof you claim in the first instance. What's the claim? There's 2 reference frames and 15 degrees an hour drift from the ground. Aeroplane travels in a straight line, but you see it seem to curve because the ground turns beneath. That's Coriolis. What's that you say, Bob? No, friction. Conservation of momentum. First law violations. Increase in atmospheric velocity. Friction. Yeah. What? So you can get around the fact we don't have 15 degrees an hour drift. So all this bullshit, all this nonsense, all this straight up first and second law of thermodynamics violation that you're employing is only to negate the fact we don't have 15 degrees an hour drift. You're explaining why we don't have that. So ultimately, all he's doing is proving unequivocally that we don't have the 15 degrees an hour drift to prove we're spinning. That's what Bob's doing. And he's going to great lengths to do it.
Make the whole room windy.
It does move air. And it's based on...
What is it, and how does it move air when we're talking about separate reference frames? Why would it want to move air when we're talking about objects in an inertial reference frame traveling straight and the appearance of them curving as you watch them as you turn beneath? Why would we be describing this? Oh, my bad, you've got to deny the globe's claim of 15 degrees an hour drift, haven't you, Bob? Yeah, got to go to great lengths to deny that claim because we're not seeing it happen.
Friction, yes.
Why would the fan that's pointing, say, straight, why would the air next to it start to move? It doesn't. It never will.
Well, yeah, it will, because the air that you're blowing out of the fan will cause air next to it. It's not like a tube of air coming out in isolation. It's attached to the air next to it. And as the tube of air goes...
It's attached to the air next to it. Unbonded gases are attached, says Bob the science guy. No, definitely not, Bob. They're fundamentally, definitely not attached. They're unbonded. That's what makes them gas. One of their fundamental properties is the fact they're not attached to each other.
Out, it'll start dragging the air around it with it.
They're dragging. They got little nooses and swings. They got little lassos, haven't they? These gas particles. They're dragging other ones around with them. No, they experience elastic collisions and they are unbonded, Bob. My God, what are you?
So you're saying you can set up a fan in the middle of your room? So wait,
what's now happening is la 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 neutral outcome, blah blah blah, forever, because this won't result in the audience understanding that we haven't got a 15 degrees an hour drift as the globe claims. You know, admittedly, it's not that long because we've paused it. It's only 6 minutes, but that's already too long. Right? Just win. So, okay. So you're going to now go through a lengthy explanation of how Earth and atmosphere travel as one, violating several laws of nature, defying gas behavior, so that we can eliminate the need to have a 15 degrees an hour drift. Why were we eliminating this drift? Why were we justifying not having the drift again? Because we don't have one. So we don't have 15 degrees an hour drift to prove we're spinning then. Let's just round this out. Anyway, I'm done with Coriolis.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to win. That's his only problem. He doesn't know how to take the victory.
It doesn't. You can easily have that before you. I can have that before with any discussion of Coriolis effect with an opponent that understands how to double speak. Bob does, and he's more than willing to relinquish his own rhetoric by double speaking around these problems like he is. All he's doing is justifying why we don't have 15 degrees an hour drift. Why we wouldn't expect to. Why would you expect to see that? Okay, yeah, unless you know how to get right down to brass tacks and say, why would we expect to see what? Your proof we spin? Unless you can phrase it that way right quick, you'll be in La La Land for hours. I don't know if this is all about Coriolis. Should we spin on to a later bit and see if it's hopefully on a different subject matter? Because I hate Coriolis.
But for me to just say the plane flies like it's
you can't make that connection that the plane does not suddenly stop as soon as it leaves the Earth. It doesn't lose its inertia. It's still...
We might actually get him going backwards here. You see, we're already another 10 minutes on, and, you know, no conclusion. This will be a neutral outcome, regardless of who seemingly wins at the end of the discussion.
Right, but when you're flying against the rotation, now it should be working for you.
Okay, is it changing its relative position to the surface of the Earth?
It's on the equator, and it's flying against the rotation.
Does it change its relative speed?
No.
In relation to the surface of the Earth, it does not.
500 miles per hour.
in relationship to the surface of the Earth, not the rotation. It doesn't have anything to do with rotation.
So no proof we spin then, no second reference frame, no Coriolis deflection. Yeah, but this needs to be stamped on. Okay, you lose. So no proof we spin then.
It already has that.
I'm saying the plane speed. I'm saying the plane speed is 500 miles per hour in the air. It's flying.
And I've already,
against the rotation.
Okay.
Does the plane get to its destination faster, 1,000 miles per hour? Because now the Earth is moving towards you.
So
the answer is no, right? It doesn't. It's equally as valid for me to say the Earth is just stationary, the plane is just flying.
Considering the plane is moving relative to the surface, you can look at it either way. However,
so we can't look at it as having a deviation at 15 degrees an hour then. All right, no proof we spin then. That needs to be the next sentence.
There are things that you still have to demonstrate which way it is, and I've already demonstrated that it's moving. It's rotating.
When we land the plane on the north to south runway on the equator, where the Earth spins 460 meters in 1 second,
you can hear his nerves in his voice now 10 minutes further on because he doesn't know how to get out of this vicious cycle, does he?
Hold on, Nathan. Nathan, I just heard Bob say he's demonstrated movement. When?
Well, he can keep this do-si-do going for as long as possible and then insert his baseless assertion that he's already proved that which he has assumed. I assume that things retain their angular momentum. Blah, 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 10 minutes of discussion. Well, I've already proved that it's turning. No, you started with the assumption it was turning. And how did you describe that mathematically? Well, you described an axis of rotation. What's an axis of rotation? Well, it's a line perpendicular to the ground if you're going to reference it to Earth. That's what you've got. So he needs a flat plane to describe rotation and an axis. But we're whistling straight past it into Coriolis deflection and whether or not we'll see it. Bob's position is we won't see it. And justifying why we don't see it. Justifying it within a begging the question fallacy that we've automatically got spin that we just don't notice and you wouldn't expect to. Well, the plane's moving with the Earth that spins. Well, there's, it needs concluding every time. Well, then there's no 15 degrees an hour drift then. So bye-bye globes came of Coriolis then. That just doesn't pad out then. So that's not true. That's not proving we spin then. So what does prove we spin? No, you haven't got anything. That's right. You just assume it. And then when there's nothing to demonstrate it's happening, you assume that the things that aren't demonstrating it to be happening are only not happening because they're moving in conjunction with the Earth that you rotate in your assumption. Therefore, you wouldn't notice any difference to a flat plane, which is where this guy's now currently got him. Well, no, wouldn't notice any difference. You'd expect 15 degrees an hour drift if it's a globe claim. Go ahead, whoever that was.
It's me, George.
Hello.
Bob lost from the first moment. Hello, guys. He lost from the first moment. The first word coming out of his mouth was in relationship to rotation of the Earth. He mentioned it depends of your latitude. So how do you get your latitude again? Yeah, he's going to need a flat plane for that description of latitude. It's not spinning, though, because 0 is a constant speed. We are not moving. He lost it from the get-go. He's invoking a flat Earth. He doesn't even realize that.
Of course. I didn't hear him say latitude. It was obviously earlier on in the video because I scrubbed through it.
The plane doesn't chase the runway sideways.
Doesn't need to because it's moving relative to the surface of the Earth.
Well, if it's moving relative to the surface of the Earth, it's not drifting at 15 degrees an hour because the non-inertial reference frame you'd be standing on to observe it moving straight through the inertial reference frame isn't in existence when you deny the very premise of the globe claim, Bob.
That's already been explained to you a number of times. Why are you not?
Bob's getting annoyed and this guy's getting nervous because he doesn't know how to get out of the incessant loop that he's been in for 15 minutes. But Bob's now getting angry.
So it's equally as valid for me to say the Earth is stationary then in that instance, right?
No, it's valid for you to say you can't tell one way or the other from that situation. There are other ways.
Equally as valid for me to just say that.
That's not right, Bob. The way you would tell one way or the other is to have the 15 degrees an hour drift. To say because we don't have a drift, you can't tell whether we're turning or not. It's a lose-lose, win-win, doesn't make any difference. You can't tell either way because we're not noticing any effects either way. Oh, right. What happened to the 15 degrees an hour drift that was supposed to prove we spin, Bob? Oh, we can't tell either way when we don't notice any of those effects that I'm claiming are supposed to prove we spin. Well, you're the only one claiming them, Dumbo. But yet we don't notice we couldn't tell either way. Yeah. As soon as you show them that there is no 15 degrees an hour drift, they'll start justifying why there isn't. It's like, you're not supposed to be justifying why we don't notice. You're supposed to be showing me 15 degrees an hour drift. To prove we spin? Well, you just couldn't notice either way.
The plane is flying and it's landing on a stationary land. Planes don't fly like the Earth is curved and rotating, though.
You sure about that?
Yeah, I can show you documents.
Go ahead.
It's on NASA's thing.
Show it to me.
I really don't want to have to get up and my computer.
I have it too. If you're trying to play the little game with the 1987 NASA document about flat and stationary Earth,
many of them.
It's a computer model, not an actual aircraft model.
There are many of them.
That's already been explained many times. I don't need.
So you're telling me that NASA spend their time modelling flat Earths? I wonder why they'd be spending their money on modelling flat Earths. So you're suggesting that there's a 1986 document that describes how NASA are modelling aviation on a flat Earth in a computer simulation. Why? Why ever would they be doing that? It's because it's flat, Bob. Yeah? There's plenty of other documentation from NASA that declare it. But it's flat. There would be no need to create any models. You'd want them to be creating better spherical models every time. There'd be no need to create flat ones. Yeah, but what they're actually doing is modelling the world as it actually exists. Flat. Yeah. By freedom of information, we found that out in the recent history of flat Earth. Yeah, we found out that NASA deal with it flat too. That's correct. The latitude system used is flat, Bob. That's what NASA use also on the Mercator projection. That's going to be a bit of a problem for you, my friend, especially when you're denying the very axial rotation derived from these latitude points. Kudos to George.
Need to go over it again.
Yeah, so it's equally valid for us to just say the plane flies over a stationary Earth, right?
No.
He's not going to concede that until you point out that by relinquishing it, he's saying there's no drift. Until you say, okay, so it's not reasonable for us to say that you don't notice any effects, I don't notice any effects, therefore it's just as reasonable to say flat Earth gives you the same effects as a moving Earth according to your demonstrations that don't have drift. No 15 degrees an hour proving we spin then. Well, that's a big problem for you because you need 15 degrees an hour drift to prove we spin. But saying that there isn't any effects to notice and therefore, oh, well, you can't just say it's not spinning. Well, we haven't got your 15 degrees an hour drift to prove it is. But it's okay and cool to just still say it's spinning even though we don't notice anything. Well, you'd need that 15 degrees an hour drift as per your Globe Bible that says we've got a 15 degrees an hour drift called Coriolis effect. It seems you've worked very hard to deny that fact because it doesn't happen. Meanwhile, it just doesn't happen. We haven't got 15 degrees an hour drift. And Bob damn well knows it. He's apologising for it.
If you can say no to that, you can tell the difference between
if you're not taking it into account.
Excuse me?
How can you tell that the Earth is rotating if you're not taking it into account at all?
No, you phrased that badly. How can you tell Earth's turning when you claim there is 15 degrees an hour drift and you've just spent the last 10 minutes denying it?
You do take it into account.
See, now he'll flip-flop back. Now we'll start talking about demonstrations that have 15 degrees an hour drift in them, even though he's fundamentally denied that premise in the last 10 minutes.
How?
Because because you cherry-picked a NASA document from the 80s.
How do you take
doesn't
it into,
mean that NASA or anybody else thinks that
chill out. How do you take it into account when you just said you don't chase the runway sideways? You fly the plane like the plane just flies 500 miles per hour that way, east to west, and it flies 500 miles per hour going the opposite direction.
What I very clearly stated was that that is not a test of either the rotation or the shape of the Earth.
So Bob, the science guy, denies Coriolis deflection. Not a test of the Earth and its rotation. Well, why would you, the Globe believer, have it in your Bible as a 15 degrees an hour drift, very well known and understood to be Coriolis effect? A lot of people think Coriolis effect is specifically to do with the Globe. It's so associated with a Globe claim. But that requires we do have 15 degrees an hour drift, Bob, But you're all the more happy to just deny it outright, aren't you? Because it doesn't happen.
Although
Yeah,
landing a plane on instrument landing does require taking the radius of the Earth into account, because that's the way the instrument.
A total non sequitur and baseless assertion that he's going to drop into flap chaff so the guy can chase it.
Approach is designed.
Rotation.
So when it comes to the flight of descent, do you have to compensate for curvature?
No.
You don't?
Nope.
Okay. So whenever you land,
I mean, that's one way to deal with his red herring.
like east to west, if you're landing east, and then if you're landing west, right, would you have to like slow down or speed up due to Earth's motion?
No.
No?
Nope.
So
Earth's motion has nothing to do with it.
So we don't compensate for the curvature whenever we're landing. We
don't do anything
and
with
then we
curvature.
don't do anything when it comes to the motion of Earth.
Curvature is...
So Earth has to be a level stationary plane, right?
fairly...
Clearly. No, it's not that it clearly must be. It's dealt with that way by the pilot. He's not accounting for a massive void opening up ahead of him at 8 inches per mile squared. He's flying level. The ground is not falling away. He's flying nose up to achieve better lift. So, without question, they're not flying over a globe. They're flying over a flat plane. Furthermore, they're not accounting for a deviation at 15 degrees an hour that's supposed to be there to prove Earth spinning. It isn't there, and he's not accounting for it. Bob says that's fine, and it doesn't matter that not noticing because of a lot of violations of natural law and violations of gas descriptions and their behaviour when they're unbonded means that we wouldn't expect to have this deviation at 15 degrees an hour proving we spin. Neutral outcome, honest. You couldn't tell any difference from the fact that we don't tell doesn't mean we're not spinning, even though that's supposed to be the very premise that I use to prove it is. So, yeah, it's all cool, says Bob.
What effect do you think you would have to take for rotation?
You wouldn't have to. That's what I'm saying.
So if you wouldn't have to take into account rotation...
So if you're debunking of my 15 degrees an hour, then we're all cool, and I'll just say that still includes globe. That's what Bob's about to do. You, as a flat earther, say we don't have to take into account 15 degrees an hour. Therefore, me, the glober, says we don't have to account for 15 degrees an hour after all.
Why is that a test of rotation?
Because you say there's 15 degrees an hour drift, you crazy clown. Why are you asking the flat earther why your standard of having 15 degrees an hour drift and it not being there would be a standard to prove that we spin? It's your claim that fails miserably and we're not noticing any effects of. And you're justifying why we don't have any effects of it. And desperately telling him how we wouldn't have a plane, have Earth turn underneath it. So we wouldn't have a plane proving that we can see 15 degrees of deviation from the ground, like the globe claims proves we spin with. Right, why would we do that, Bob? We wouldn't, you stupid man. You do, it just fails.
Because it doesn't, it's equally, as I'm saying, it's equally as valid for me to just say the Earth is not rotating. End of story. It doesn't take it into account.
It's also equally valid to say this isn't a test of rotation,
So having a claim that we've got 15 degrees an hour drift as a test of rotation would just be me completely and fundamentally undermining the globe's claim, right, Bob? Well done, you stupid man. So it wouldn't be a test of globe rotation then, the 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns underneath to exhibit Coriolis effect exactly as the globe claims. Not a reasonable test, says Bob. Yeah, they'll bash their own heads in with shovels if you give them half enough chance. Right, Bob?
So we don't know.
Okay. So how come planes fly like the Earth is flat then? They
don't.
Yes, they do.
Who told you that?
I've spoken to pilots like...
I am a pilot. You're speaking to one right now. Tell me.
What? Bob's a pilot now? Okay. Anybody know anything about this? I've never heard this before. Anybody ever Bob claiming he's a pilot prior to now? Okay, this is news to us. Not that it means much when you've just had a professional aviator on camera talking about how it doesn't account for Earth curve or drift. The same drift that would be proving we spin if we saw any of it. The liner pilot isn't accounting for it, and you say that's perfectly fine, it wouldn't matter, and it wouldn't mean that we're not actually seeing anything happen. But that doesn't mean it's stationary. Sure, Brian's got a lot to say on this. Hello, Brian.
Hey Nathan, how are things? Hey Neil, hey everyone.
I'm covering this video, but is it all Coriolis effect? Might spin on another 10 minutes to see if they go on to a different subject.
I haven't watched all of it. It's just basically about how planes fly.
What's wrong with that?
That's a 2016 drawing from somebody
What's wrong with it?
who has no idea what they're talking about.
But the thing is, pilots don't account.
So it's been presented with planes would fly and drop and nose down if they were accounting for a void opening ahead of them. Bob's just appealed to who made the diagram and ad hom the person as poison in the well fallacy. So immediately before the guy's finished, you can hear Bob talking through and going, "That belongs to this guy. That guy's a clown. I've discredited him." It's so weak.
Count for curvature, like you just said.
What makes you think that?
So when it comes to the flight of descent, do you have to compensate for curvature?
No.
You don't?
Nope.
Okay. So when it comes to the motion of Earth, curvature is
ever a flat surface.
It's not testing for it one way or the other.
Let's say we're testing for it. It's equally.
You're not testing for it.
Let's say
the minute something's being dealt with unequivocally flat, well, we're not testing for it. It sounds familiar, Bob. It's like when we point out that we're measuring Earth flat for elevation angles, people tell us it's not the ground. I mean, even if they start their proofs with "this is proving Earth's a sphere," and we go, "Well, that's got a flat Earth angle measurement in it. That proves Earth's being measured flat. It's not the ground." What do you mean? They're flying over the ground? It's nothing to do with the ground.
we're testing for it. It's equally as valid for me to say that the plane flies over a flat Earth.
Okay, if you are
not equally valid, it's necessitated. I don't know. This guy doesn't realise the strength of his own position. Does anybody? Is this? It doesn't sound like Flat Earth Banjo, the guy. Is it Flat Earth Banjo? The guy
he's
who's talking?
an Australian guy from TikTok.
It's just a different guy from TikTok that Flat Earth Banjo's picked up on and republished.
Yeah, Flat Earth Banjo recorded this, as far as I know.
Oh, okay. He's pretty sharp, the guy.
Or something.
He's definitely sharper than your average bear.
testing for it specifically, how would you test for it?
You would say the.
Why burden of proof reversal fallacy? Why is he having to justify this? You claim there's 15 degrees an hour, Dumbo.
Where you fly, like you just said, you level the.
Is that you, Brian?
Yeah, I'm just saying, Bob is saying, we're not testing for rotation, we're not testing for curvature. When you're flying a plane, right, if you're flying a plane, and you're supposed to be flying over a globe of radius 3,959 miles, that's also rotating at 1,040 miles at the equator. You don't. It's not about whether you're testing for that. That is what you have to traverse. You know what I mean? It's like we're not testing for curvature, but no one's asking whether we're testing. It's if the curvature is there, we'll have to account for it, Bob. Do you know what I mean? It's not accounted for, and neither is the rotation because it's not there.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? How would you test for curvature with an airplane then?
What he's saying is, look, if there's no demonstrable curvature in this flight, that's because they're not looking for curvature when they do flights. We're not using that as a proof, see?
Stupid asking about that. No one's looking for the curvature. When they're just flying a plane, we just stop it.
Right, let me do a proper call to action. So this is Flat Earth Banjo, USA, Japan, and Brazil. So please let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. I've just put a link to his channel in the live stream chat. So if you are currently watching live, I don't know how else to phrase this, we are currently live. Makes absolutely sod all sense if you're watching after the fact. But we are, strictly speaking, if you are watching this, you can only be in a position to click on that link if you're hearing this right now. Anyway, go and let him know. He's a friendly. He's actually one of us, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, please let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Click on the like button. I'll periodically refresh the page to see if any of you have actually done this. See if that's happened already. No, maybe not, because I might lose my space.
I believe the comments are turned off.
They are.
Oh, they are. I've just noticed that. Oh, that's a bummer. Oh, well, at the very least, right, we'll keep track of it. It's currently got 10 thumbs up, which is one of which is mine, so it had 9. Go and give him a like and subscribe if you like what you see here, because he's got a lot more of the same. He goes through the internet and finds good stuff to publish. And yeah, so it's I'm subscribed. I think I am. Oh no, I don't think I am at the moment. No, I am. It's just I'm in a weird account situation for whatever reason. I'm pretty certain I'm subscribed to Flat Earth Banjo, although it's offering me the opportunity to subscribe, which is weird. Anyway, that's a different story. Anyway, go and let him know. And hopefully that's enough waffle to get people to have actually gone and done this right here, right now, and maybe subscribe to him, maybe give him a like. You can't leave him a comment. You can't tell him that I've been there. So that's as much as you can do. Maybe find a different video in his channel that you can leave a comment on to let him know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me.
Gyroscope to the ground, and then you fly, right?
Okay.
And
That's
you land,
the gyroscope is just for the heading.
And then hang on, and then the gyroscope. This gyroscope.
Yeah, when they get screwed, Globus, that is, Bob's no exception. They can hear it coming. So then they start chanting through you. He started talking about a gyroscope, so Bob's going to start chanting through the top of him, so his claim can't be heard. And he's going to start making his claims about what gyro should or shouldn't do through the top of it. So he can't have a concise claim put to him to have to overcome. So it's chanting time. And you'll hear it. It'll be a common theme from this till the end of this discussion, I'm in no doubt.
Morning, guys.
Morning.
Never processes downwards. The nose of the plane's not ever going down. It's actually up, right, to maintain altitude. So you don't nose the plane down. What plane did you fly?
That's not important.
Yeah, because I don't think you're a pilot.
Why go with the compound question? We don't nose the plane down. And then he put out a rhetorical question mark, right? What plane did you fly? Why are you giving him a compound question to answer? Because which is he going to pick? Why don't we nose the plane down? Or which plane do you fly? Now, by answering it doesn't matter, you can, as the audience, take it to mean the answer to both. But ultimately, if you were to pin him down, one is true. You don't nose the plane down, Bob, and you never will. You'll fly an elevated angle of attack to maintain better lift. There's no void opening up ahead of you or any other pilot. But you're going to answer the easy part of the compound question. And then the guy who led him with a beautiful statement of fact, you don't nose the plane down, then declared the conspiratorial, I don't believe you're a pilot. That'll be the focus now. You watch.
That's fine with you.
Because if you can't admit that if you just keep your heading on east, and then you'd end up south if you don't keep your heading on it, then I don't believe that you're a pilot.
If you're following the line of latitude, you follow the line of latitude, which is always east.
Well, then you're going to need a flat Earth for that. The latitude and longitude grid are flat Earth based. Talking about time and circles of equal elevation with respect to Polaris put into a grid system. That's flat Earth measurements. Straight up, you can't do this without a flat Earth, Bob. George already called it. I can take no credit. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I heard Bob earlier than this, if I remember correctly, say when the guy brought up, do you dip the nose down? He said, why would I do that? Because you're claiming to fly over a globe, Bob. That's why. And now he's saying, when he's asked about it, he's saying, oh, we just follow the line of latitude. No plane follows a line of latitude. That's a curved path. Latitude is a curved path. Bob is trying to make it out that latitude is, like, he's trying to make it out that the airplane is adjacent to a sphere and tilted. And if it's flying, it can fly in a straight line and follow a line of latitude. It can't. Latitude is a curved path. You can make a chord with a line of latitude. You cannot fly straight and follow latitude. Bob is trying to give the impression that he can fly straight and still follow a line of latitude. Because in his mindset, a line of latitude is just a circle around a globe. So if he just flies straight at the correct angle to that circle, then he'll just follow it. If you know what I mean. This is his mind. This is something that as a pilot, he has never done and never will do. Yet he's trying to say he does it. That is crazy. You know what I mean? That's like you saying, when I drive and I drive out on the motorway, I always sit then in the passenger side. I always sit in the passenger side of the car as I'm driving it. It's literally like that. It's like, no, you don't. No one does that. You know what I mean? It's literally that bizarre that someone is willing to say these things like that. And someone who was claiming to be a pilot is willing to say that. And I've seen Bob, I think, in a pilot, or in a cockpit flying it. Pretty sure I saw him in a cockpit flying at some point. in this arena. So why is he saying he just follows a line of latitude when that's not what planes fly? They fly straight lines. They don't follow a curved path.
Right, they don't nose down. That's the argument. The guy had him, and now we're into whether or not it's a pilot. I mean, I could easily say, all right, you've got a picture of him in a pilot seat. I've got a picture of my wife in a pilot seat. She trained to be a helicopter and pilot, normal, whatever, Cessna, I think she was flying at the time. But that doesn't make my wife a pilot. Yeah, the fact that she's capable of flying a couple of different flying machines wouldn't mean that I'd call her a pilot. Do you know what I mean? So to quiz her,
well, if she has a license, she's a pilot.
Pardon?
That's just the way it is. She may not be a practicing pilot, but if she has a license, then she's a pilot.
I'm sure she had a license to fly at some point, or she got qualified into MIC. I don't know. I'm not her, and she's not sat next to me to ask. My point is that to appeal to yourself as a pilot because you happen to have got qualified at one point, done some training, isn't the same as being somebody like the guy that he's shoved the camera under the nose of and gone, look, when you're flying passengers day in, day out as a job, which is definitely not Bob's job, is he? He's not flying passengers for a living, is he? He's not flying cargo or anything for a living. So, but he's like, well, I'm a pilot. Are you? Yeah, right, okay. And I'm an Olympic athlete. Oh, I ran a couple of times. I used to jog.
Yeah, but if you let's say you put your heading east and then make a marker where east is, but follow the marker not east, you'll end up south.
Okay, that's not following a heading of east. You're going to drift to the south.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You'll drift.
Right, all of these directions are flat Earth. You can't talk about east unless you've got a flat Earth to describe it with respect to. East is not a globe direction. Neither are any of the lines on a compass. You need a flat Earth for a compass. Why are you using our flat Earth, Bob? This is an outrage. Stop using a flat Earth to claim your stupid globe. Very irritating. That's the tact, isn't it? Righteous indignation. Oh, yeah, that's the tact. I'm enjoying 2024. Sorry to go off on this little segue. But it's been a lot of fun so far, wouldn't you agree? Irritating that some of the flat earthers don't get it yet, because you'd hope they'd be the first. But aside from that, it's been a lot of fun. Not the ground. I'm having fun. Even when we go back to tired old crap from the Feast of Nonsense, like when we had the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, it's still fun going back to old stupid 2017 rhetoric and pulling it apart in the same way. It's good fun. Milo?
I said to refracted curvature yesterday, not to go off away from the video now, but I said it to refracted curvature yesterday, that is your best work. The way you pull that apart, I could take that and share it with anyone, and anyone would understand what you're saying. Whereas I couldn't share a lot of things with people because they wouldn't know what you're talking about. People who don't know anything about the subject, they wouldn't know what you mean with some of the things you say. But when it comes to that, and you're pulling that apart, and you're giving the analogy of fur coats and wardrobes and Turkish delight, and you're just showing up the nonsense for what it is, and to someone who might never have realised it, that is, it was hilarious. I actually went over to the wrong side of the road with laughing. Now, there was no one on the road. It was a big open road, but there was no one there. But I was laughing in the car so much, I went to the wrong side of the road.
You said that. I think it was yesterday. And don't get me wrong, I review all of the shows, and I think they're all fantastic. This one is a particular high point, I would say. Definitely worth sharing if you haven't done so already. Hello, Adam. But off that aside, joking aside, I'm not joking. I do review them all, but I went back to it again, re-reviewed it, if you will, because you said, like you just said, I nearly slid off the road with laughter. So I was like, okay, I'll go back and have a listen to that particular section where we covered the podcast of the Locusts with their assessment of whether or not the moon landing was a hoax. And I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. But by the same token, I didn't think it was any different to any other show. I just okay, it's just a video we responded to. Because I listened through to the end, literally just before we started. And I was like, I didn't pick out any moments and go, wow, I see where Brian's going. I got to the end and was like, oh, okay, well, I'm glad Brian enjoyed it. I thought it was just as good as every other show.
I know. My point being is that that was shareable with anybody, anybody at all who doesn't know anything about the subject. I could share that section with them, and they could listen and follow along as to exactly what you're saying, and that would wake someone up as to, hang on a minute, this is the comparison of the type of evidence that I'm being presented with for this moon landing. It's like, this is rubbish, and they laugh at the way you're comparing it when you're bringing up wardrobes and fur coats, Turkish delight, and all this. It was brilliant. That's my point. Whereas other shows, I could give someone a listen to it and they won't know what you're talking about, because you're saying things that people on the show know what it is, or in the arena know what you mean. But outside of that, no one knows what you're talking about.
Okay. So, for instance, today, if I listen back to some of the spiel today, while I might be very proud of the fact that I've made the best stab at disseminating to my audience how non-inertial and inertial reference frames, already we're into jargon, don't work if you're claiming you've got two of them and then justifying why you can't see any of the effects of them, right? Straight away, just in my summary, some people will have glazed over, right, Brian? But if you say, oh, you say you bought rocks back from space? Well, if I, without giving a big build-up, compare that to bringing Turkish delight back from Narnia, you can see that there's an easy comparison for people to latch onto and associate with, and etc., etc. Right, Brian? Is that what you're saying? Oh yes, Nathan, to be sure.
Just how you brought up Coriolis real quick. Just a funny few second story. Yesterday I'm scrolling through my YouTube and one of the old episodes shows up. It's like 340 something, right? So I just put it on just to hear what the hell we were talking about back then. And it's this Glober named Dean, right? And somehow we get into Coriolis, and we literally get him to say that the atmosphere is velcroed to the earth. Now, like I said, this is episode 344 or something, right? And he literally says his argument back then was the atmosphere is velcroed to the earth. I just thought I'd share because that's hilarious.
The 300 and what?
300, I think it was 344. Like random old episodes will just pop up on my, just as a recommended, and they'll just pop up on my YouTube. So every once in a while I'll turn them on. And yeah, it was all of us. And this guy comes in and he's talking about Coriolis and literally says the atmosphere is velcro to the earth.
Interesting you say that old shows flash up. I'd noticed that. I'd normally wait for 2 or 3 people to mention it before just me noticing and someone from the panel noticing. But from a statistical point of view, I keep an eye on the 10 most recent, because that's how YouTube publish the stats to me and every other videographer, I'm sure. But there's also obviously an underlying amount of YouTube views that I acquire just from having a lot of videos out there, and that as a whole has elevated recently. Now, I obviously didn't want to immediately ascribe that to me seeing a few more of my videos publicised to me when I'm signed in on my other account. But when I've been signed in on my other account, I'm like, ooh, you're offering me my own show, are you? Oh, I feel privileged. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's been happening to me a lot lately. Like a lot of the just random old episodes, the early hundreds, will just start popping up on my recommended.
Maybe that's to our detriment, right? We're stuck in the feast of nonsense back in those episodes. It works to the Globe's advantage to have those be the episodes that circulate. I'll always find a reason to moan. Anyway, I'm gonna round out this live show shortly. So, with 100 odd people watching, did you want to add anything, John? Hello, go ahead.
Hey, how you guys doing? Yeah, I was gonna say that velcroed atmosphere they're talking about. I can guarantee you, they think what's causing that is an inertial force or it's a downward force with respect to an inertial plane. And there's 2 problems with that. One, gravity is not a force. And they don't think they live on an inertial plane, do they?
Yeah, or to put it another way, they're going to need a flat Earth for the description.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before you round out, Nathan, Paula made a good point.
With that, I'll say a huge, massive... I'm only joking. Just joking.
Hello. At Nathan, along with all elevation angles requiring a flat baseline, we could add that if Earth were rotating, it would be a non-inertial reference frame, and therefore no laws of motion can be derived from it. Very nice, Paul.
He also says, Earth so big begs the question. Correct. Begs the question, but uses a flat Earth measurement with an apology for why it's not being measured spherically. Anyway, that is going to be the point that I say. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow.
How do you live on a sphere with no sphericity? It's like retarded.
Why would we expect to see sphericity?
Are you playing more of the video, Nathan? And just so you know, I reckon this video or this show will be relatable to people too. I didn't mean to leave you hanging earlier. What it was is I just couldn't get to the phone, and then Chocolate started talking to you, so I just had to go.
I just put on my best Irish accent and spoke for you. It was all good.
That was horrendous. That was horrendous. No one speaks like that. That's like a really bad London stage Irish accent. It's terrible.
That's exactly what I was going for. A really bad Londoner doing an impersonation of an Irish. That's exactly what I was going for.
It's this, to be short, there's a grand
to be sure.
Morning, Micheline. This out of rubbish. Load of baloney nonsense.
To explain how racist it was to my wife when she was like, because I chuckled at as I explained, do listen back to my show. There was a point when someone was talking about spraying water from fire hydrants, and then I pipe up and go, "Oh, you had that during the Troubles, didn't you?" And then when I heard it back, I laughed, and my wife was like, "Well, what? I don't get why that would be funny." I'm like, "Well, number one, Brian's not from Northern Ireland, so it's inherently, if you're on the outside and you don't know I know that, it just seems like I'm inherently really ignorant, right? But trying to put a good Irish gag in there that seems relevant because you're Irish, right? It's like, no, it works on multiple levels of stupidity, which is what I like." Anyway.
Yeah, it's super thick. Yeah. Just pre-assuming that because this thing happened in that country, that person was directly involved in it. Yeah.
Anyway. I wasn't intending to play any more video. I've already got a headache from it. And when I looked, I can see, because the delay of the live stream, I can see the preview with me on camera. And I've gone to do the outro, turned on my studio lights. And because I'm absolutely knackered, I was up till God knows what time because I'm signing out my stupid account by accident. I'm now knackered and you can really see it in the camera. I'm like, oh my God, look at the state of me. I look like I feel. That's not good. Oh, well, maybe I shouldn't have chose to go on camera today.
Hey, I hate to change the subject. We're talking about how you look, but Brian, did you get to mention the levels not level thing we talked about yesterday?
No, I didn't get it. I only just came on maybe 5-6 minutes before your session.
Sounds legit. Levels not level. Of course. Makes sense. Perfect. Do you need to say any more? It's self-explanatory.
Well, it's an indictment on Bev. That's what we were just talking, like, because Bev is constantly attacking us. Like, Bev started all this. We used to always be shouting out Bev. I used to constantly shout out Bev. I think I was the last person on the panel to stop shouting about it. And Bev has been claiming that level is a point on a vertical datum. Now, Adam pointed. Pardon me.
Level's not 1 point.
Yeah, Adam pointed out to him that level is not 1 point. Level is no point higher than any other point. You need, to determine level, you need at least 2 points, right? So me and John were saying, well, if we, like, Bev wants to take things that people say, and he wants to make a little snide attack on them via this, instead of like having any honest conversation of any kind, or you know what I mean. Bev in the past couple of years has decided just to be basically a troll and just attacking and a character assassination and all this. When he used to do that, he used to be informative. Bev was informative. Do you know what I mean? But he's dropped these standards, right? But because he spent so much time attacking us, I was saying to John yesterday, this is out of order. Like, I mean, and we both agreed. He's claiming that level is not level. When he's claiming level is just a point on mean sea level is just a point on a vertical datum. That's what he claims. Well, it's not level then, is it? That's a mean sea average. That's not mean sea level. That's mean tide average, not mean sea level, according to him. Because what he's describing is not
it's mean
level.
tide average described as a single point on the vertical datum. That's what it actually is.
Yeah. But he's saying mean sea level is a point on a vertical datum. It's like, it's impossible. It can't be. You need 2 points for a level. So
Sure,
Dave is
he's an
basically
idiot.
claiming, go on.
I don't know, he just seems out to undermine us at all costs. From what I hear people tell me, I don't see it. It just sounds like he's just intentionally out to undermine us, and it doesn't matter if he ends up looking stupid in the process. He doesn't seem to care.
His job is to tell people, it's his duty to tell mankind that he's measured the earth not to be flat. Off you go, Bev. Have fun.
But he used to be saying that all levels are parallel with the plane of the horizon. Has anyone heard him say that?
Yes, I've heard him say that.
He said what he would say, his exact words were, all horizontals are parallel to each other and all horizontals are parallel with the plane of the horizon.
Straight out of Euclid.
That was, yeah. But how can that be? How can anything he says, like how can he know if he's measuring Earth not to be flat if mean sea level is just a point on a vertical datum?
It isn't. It just seems like it fundamentally undermines what we are doing currently. You know, it started with us. It started when we started talking about elevation angle measurement in the first instance. That's when this all kicked off for Bev. And he just wanted to undermine it by you can do F all with an angle. That's where it began, right?
Well, he said that originally to Ruhif. Ruhif originally said that to Ruhif, but as some kind of a joke or something to do with what Ruhif was saying. But then he continued it on and translated it over to us and kept saying it. Like, he kept saying it, that he fought for it. So whatever he's saying, it started out.
Sorry, Brian. Did he have a problem with the black swan? Isn't that where this started?
Yeah, you're right. It does
But he had a problem with that as well.
He's just got a problem with us, hasn't he? It's nothing to do with our standard of proof at any given time. It's whatever we're talking about at any given time he's got an issue with.
He has a problem with the black swan because Kiwi told him, hold off on the other stuff. Let's pump the black swan right now. Not telling him what to do. As a community, it would be beneficial to get it out of there.
I love how you've taken QE's spin. I went and told him what to do. Yes. And I told him when I was telling him what to do that I wasn't telling him what to do. And then he took the ump with me telling him what to do, like I was telling him what to do on that.
But it was beneficial. Like what you're doing.
When you're giving somebody something beneficial, it's not you telling them what to do anymore.
Exactly.
Exactly.
What the hell, Neil?
I feel dumber
Give a
now.
man a fish, and I was gonna say, give a man a fish, and he'll tell you there's no such thing as fish.
Can you get the guys just took strong acid out of here, please? It's not making much sense.
Sorry, sitting down.
Thinking of fishing rods. Give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. Give a man a fishing rod and he'll beat you to death with it and steal your wallet.
Yeah, same idea, yeah.
Well, in the same way, I wouldn't hand my child an M16. Maybe giving some people these arguments is dangerous.
No, it was it was when Black Swan first hit. So that's what we wanted everybody to grab onto because it was devastating. And they took it the wrong way.
But if you get enough
As far
people
as I
Who
can
took it the
tell,
wrong way?
How come 10th Man didn't take it the wrong way when QE told him, hold off on celestial navigation right now? 10th Man held off. What was it, a year later? He started leaking it out, and look where we are now.
Well, I think John's trying to say something. I'll go after you, John, if you have something to say.
Yeah, kind of forgot my point. It's all right. Go ahead, man.
Well, the thing about this is this, right? It doesn't matter how it started off. I understand how it started off, but it doesn't matter. The point is that his claim about the Black Swan is it's fallacious. It's a fallacious modus tollens, which makes no logical sense, as Dewey pointed out. But Bev's actual reason for being in this arena is that he saw online that people were claiming that horizontal and level were not the same thing. He was like, what? Right? So in 2019, that's where he came from. Came from Twitter, I think it was, where people were ballers like Fight the Flat Earth were trying to claim this. And that's why when he told Fight the Flat Earth publicly that on a show or whatever that he teaches his son that level and horizontal are the same thing. Fight the Flat Earth, call him a child abuser. Now, that was wrong, obviously, completely wrong, right? But Craig is willing to go to those depths, right? But Bev's whole position then is out the window when he's claiming, and he has argued and claimed that mean sea level is just a point on a vertical datum, and that mean sea level is different in different places. Now, it's not. The tides are different in different places. That point of mean sea level, that average point, that is exactly, if you add up all those points across the world, they will make one perfect horizontal. The tides are different. But Bev is calling mean sea level a point on a vertical datum, and then he's trying to say that these points are different from place to place. That is not level. One point can't be a level, and even if you do use two of these points, he's claiming they're not going to be level with each other. How can it be mean sea level then? You know what I mean? Bev has gone so far down the hate hole, which is what it is. And I know we all kind of know what's driving it, right? Or who's driving it. But he's gone so far down that hate hole that he's saying the stupidest of things. That's what's going on. He's saying stupid stuff, totally stupid stuff he wouldn't have said a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah, I think Bev is the best example of beware of when you fight monsters, lest you become one.
But I don't really, I still don't get it. Like the guy used to come here and make presentations and shit. Like, where did it all go askew? I don't really get it. Because I was there back then on the listening to that debate between him and Fight the Flat Earth when he was calling him a child abuser. And I remember almost coming off mute and probably about to get kicked out of the server because I was like, because I didn't know who he was. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy who's calling a flat earther somebody who's saying horizontal is level of a child abuser? Because horizontal is level? What?
Don't miss the intonation. You said it correctly, but just without enough gusto. Yeah, because he was saying horizontal is level, he was calling him that name. Yeah. He asked him if he teaches his kids that. He said, yeah, and therefore he labelled him that way.
Yep.
I don't know what it is about this topic, but it's society accepts some of the most horrible behavior from people. You know, like if this was any other topic, maybe politics is the only other one where, you know, that kind of behavior wouldn't be tolerated. People would immediately, you know, push those people away. But for some reason, they're embraced, and you know, I don't get it.
No, it is. You said it earlier. Bev is the best example of someone becoming like the monster that he was fighting. Like I'd see Bev now similar to Fight the Flat Earth in some ways. You know what I mean? With these kind of tactics and nonsense, and just kind of like a bowler, that kind of way. I don't see Bev as outside of that as much anymore. He is outside of it, but not like he once was. Once he was completely separated from it. Didn't matter if he didn't want to say he was a flat earther. I don't care about that. It was his. Now I don't see him as separate from the ballers. If you know what I mean. I see him as sneaky, trying to come up with gotchas. It's nonsense. He's not making any. What progress has he made since he's been? In the past 2 years, in the past year, what progress has Bev actually made? Nothing. He just spends, I don't know how much of it. I don't want to listen to his show because I got sick of listening to him giving out about Nathan and this show, and I got sick of it. It's like, just stick to whatever topic you're talking about. Stick to like dealing with the ballers or whatever. You know, stick to that. Don't, like, if you want to critique something, critique it. But this personal thing where you're constantly bringing up Nathan or you're bringing up whoever, QE, whatever, like basically it's saying things in a snide way where you're implying stuff about us but not saying it. You know, that everyone understands. So you're not. So if anyone asks you, are you saying this? I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying blah blah blah. When it's very, you know, like Elder Bear does. When it's very obvious what you're saying. You know, it is like that's what he's become. Like I don't listen to there's nothing going on his show to listen to. It's just him giving out and having little issues. Like he could have said years ago, look, I just want to stick to doing what I'm doing, and that had been grand. Instead of deciding that he's going to, you know, attack us, he didn't need to attack anything we were doing. There was no need for that.
Right, and what makes it worse is everything prior to that, because what he's attacking us on runs detrimental to everything that he had done up to that point. It's like, you know what? Everything I know, forget that. I'm just going to say horrible stuff about these people. That is, you know, but the things I'm going to say is directly opposed to what I've been saying, just because I don't like them. What the heck? Yes. That's horrible.
Completely losing himself.
I think if we give him some flowers, he would like us again.
Well, why? What have we done wrong to deserve giving him flowers? I mean, if you can tell me what I've done to offend Bev, I mean, not that I care, but you know what I mean, then, you know, I'll listen. But I don't think we've done anything wrong for him to despise us in the way he does and occupy so much of his time, bordering on obsession.
Yeah, you're talking about in the first place. You're not talking about when he's come here in the past year and a half. You're talking about 2 years ago when he first started attacking us. What did we do to deserve that?
Yeah.
We didn't do anything. We weren't his enemies. We were his supporters. We used to call him out. You used to call him out all the time. I'd call him out. I'd mention his name constantly. Bev, I was watching Bev's the other night. He was pointing this out. But he's just gone down this road of hate and attacking us on our arguments arguments they can't be beaten, Bev. You can't beat the Black Swan and Celestial Navigation. They can't be beaten. That's the point. So it's a stupid position to take to attack them. When really it's obvious it's just us who have an issue with or Nathan or something. It's like we used to call him out all the time. Now what has he become? He's become a joke.
You mean shout him out?
Shout out. I was just going to say that. You didn't call him out. Nathan used to promote Bev. He used to tell people subscribe to Bev. Bev is ace. Now he's not. Now he's a piece of crap.
Well, that's why me and Brian are so upset. You know, that's what's bothering us. That's why we're bringing this up.
Oh, I'm glad you're finally upset.
Well, I mean, I've been upset, but to think about someone disliking you so much that they'll throw out what they know just so they can try to make an argument against what they know. That's just bad behavior. I don't know what else to call it.
His not flat position is ridiculous, right? And it has been from the start. And the whole basis of it is to get how he gets into arguments about it is you get someone to tacitly accept that flat is a geometric claim when it's not. So he'll say it's not flat because of topography, and someone will go, well, if you're talking about, yeah, but then what about this? And you know what I mean? There might be, but the water and what are you getting into? Flat is a description. The overall description of the Earth, as an overall description of the Earth, there is no better description than flat. It is the only way to describe it. The same way as my tabletop. There's only one way to describe it. Does it have undulations? Yeah. But how else are you going to describe it other than flat? You can't. There's no better way to describe the surface. A description of a surface. But as soon as people start getting into it as a geometric argument, they lose immediately. And it's like, and he knows this, yet he keeps doing it. I pointed it out to him. Other people pointed it out to him. Eli pointed it out. I mean, it's been pointed out to him. You're making a geometric argument with the word flat, and flat is not part of geometry. It's a descriptor, not. Do you know what I mean? Not a shape. You know what I mean? Not an orientation. You know, it's a way of describing. But he still does this. Why take that position? Why take that position in the first place? Why did you need to go down that road? What's the point? What is to be gained out of it, other than antagonism? That's all you're gaining, antagonism of other people.
He lined up with everybody else, FED bad. That's all.
I have yet to see anybody lose yet, though. Like, he may be able to give the appearance of an argument from the point where he points out that there are topography changes in the land, and then run people in a circle all the way back to some, to where he doesn't concede and he just restates his point, so that the audience, is maybe lost. Maybe he's lost. Maybe he can't understand the conclusion and his initial statement, are, they're not connected in any way. The conclusion falsifies his statement.
Well, you know the way he himself has critiqued, and other people have critiqued, like Nathan saying hashtag measured flat. Well, his critique to that, and his point before Nathan started saying that, was that he was saying it's not flat. He knows he has measurements. How do you measure something not flat?
Well, with respect to how flat it is. You take your horizontal plane of reference and reference how high or low stuff is with respect to that flat plane of reference that you reference. To say how flat it isn't with respect to how flat it is.
If you can't measure it flat, right? Now you can with caveats. You can to say the Earth is measured flat with caveats is true, right? But if someone is claiming you can't measure it's flat, right? Which is what Bev is basically putting people in a position where flat is purely a two-dimensional thing, and because of topography, which would be three-dimensional, they lose kind of thing in a geometric argument. But how is he determining it's not flat? He has measurements that prove it's not that the description of flat is wrong. Is that what he's saying? I like you know what I mean? It's like pot calling the kettle black kind of thing.
The thing is, though, when you get a value of 0 as when you're measuring the topography, and you get a value of 0. What does that mean you have officially done to build something? Have you made it curved?
No.
Well, your 0 has to be your midpoint or whatever. If you're talking about elevation, there has to be a
well,
baseline.
they have that. Right. Yeah, they flattened that area out.
Yes, you leveled it out.
Yep, you level, but that's what you say is you flattened it out. You don't curve it out. You don't say that flatness doesn't exist.
Anyone honest really can see between the lines. He says nothing but true things, to be honest, more or less. But the things that he leaves out are so glaring that, and he fights that part so hard that, you can't help but see him as ridiculous.
Yeah, and he was never that way in the past. In the past, he just made sense. When he was pointing out something, it was making sense, and he was focused on what he was pointing out. But if he's saying...
he was instrumental in my level understanding.
Yeah, I used to love it. I couldn't wait to listen to Bev's show. I used to be excited, looking forward to... I'd be saying to myself, Bev is on at this time, I'm going to be listening to Bev. I wanted to hear Bev. In the past year and a half, 2 years, since around just the end of 2022, I've lost... Towards that point, I lost interest in Bev. I started gradually losing interest. It's like, and now I don't listen to it at all, simply because it's just a load of nonsense and hate. Instead of progress in any way.
I used to sit on the panel with him in 24/7 when he used to be in there, right? And he would have conversations, and the guy was interesting because he would always take it to that discussion, right? With horizontal, with level. And I thought it was good back in the day. The guy made sense and never had problems with him, never had beef with him. So I don't know
Yeah,
what
you
the hell
drive
happened.
the ball is crazy.
Yeah, he came into it several years after I did. And I wasn't making videos until 2017, but I was in it since 2015. But he came in about the end of 2018, or I think it was 2019, something like that. And he just started gaining popularity fast. He suddenly had several thousand subscribers, and I didn't even have 200. That kind of way. He became very popular very fast, and for good reason. But now, if he came along now, he'd get no one. Or he just have a load of elder bears, a load of hateful people and lawyers.
Yeah, like what that one guy said a second ago about what he says is true up to but it's not the whole truth. You know what
But
I mean?
he's leading you somewhere else. Like what he says is true, but he's leading you somewhere else, somewhere that's, fantasy or telling you that it's a fantasy, that the true thing that you're saying is different than the true thing he's saying.
Yes, there's a
I was getting
legend.
ready to give an example. Yeah, I was getting ready to give an example of that. Like going back to what we started this with is level is just a point. If you finish the sentence, it's a true statement. It's not just a point. It's a point on all vertical datums, not just one.
Because a point is from level.
Yeah, but Bev literally says that mean sea level is just a point on a vertical datum. That it can't be. You know what I mean? It can't be just a point because that means it can't be a level. It's stuff like that he never would have left out in the past. He wouldn't have made that mistake 2.5 years ago. He just wouldn't have made that mistake. That wouldn't have happened. But
Ryan, when I'm leveling a floor, I can't level a point of the floor and say my floor is now level. Okay? There's no such thing as level point. It makes no sense at all.
Exactly, Neil. And he knows that. Yet to try and rebut us, to try and have a thing with us, he said mean sea level is just a point on a vertical datum. Something that is obviously wrong, a statement that's obviously flawed. And it's just like, you wouldn't have said that 2.5 years ago. But now you would say it, simply because you're compromising yourself.
Victory Royale!
Nathan's after winning something.
Yeah, that Fortnite's got him, but he's getting addicted to it.
That's why he wouldn't play on the video. I wanted to play on the video because Adam's here.
Yeah, that's what it is. He's got to kill some noobs.
Killed all the noobs. I'm going to round out. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And, of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.